We're always told things like, just let go, or find yourself. But what does that actually mean? Like, what do you do day to day? Well, today, we're going to dig into that. Using some fantastic insights from the blog An Uncommon Pastor, we're going to build a really practical guide to help you move beyond just playing a role and start living a life that feels truly yours. So let's dive in.
And let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of it all. Do you ever have that feeling like you're just going through the motions? You're playing a part that was kind of handed to you? I think we all know deep down that we're unique, but man, it is so easy for that feeling to get buried under everything else.
You know the drill. We become the good worker, the responsible parent, the dependable friend. And look, those roles are obviously important, but the source material points out that sometimes, if we're not careful, they can completely cover up who we really are. They can hide what makes us tick and what we genuinely stand for. So, how do we even start to peel back those layers? Well, it all begins with a pretty radical idea about our own nature.
Okay, so this first part, it really challenges that cynical view of the world that's so common these days. The big idea here is that the foundation for any real, lasting transformation is believing in the inherent goodness inside ourselves and inside other people, even when it's really, really hard to see.
To make this idea really click, the source uses this powerful story from a novel. So picture this. You've got this Earl, and he is just convinced the world is a cold, heartless place. He even believes that he himself is totally unlovable. But his wife, well, she sees things in a completely different light.
And this is where their two worldviews just completely collide. The Earl, he sees malice everywhere. He just assumes people are fundamentally out for themselves, hostile, greedy. But his wife, she's operating from a totally different playbook. She truly believes that when people do hurtful things, it's not because they're evil. It's because they're coming from a place of deep, deep fear or pain.
And this one line is the absolute core of her philosophy. You can look at a harmful action and say, nope, that is not okay, without writing off the entire person as being irredeemably bad. It's about separating the behavior from the person's inherent worth. That shift in perspective is everything.
So this isn't just a sweet story from a novel. It's actually a perfect illustration of a core spiritual concept. The source connects it directly to a principle from the Unity movement, which basically says that our fundamental essence, our core, is divine. And because of that, we are all inherently good. Getting your head and your heart around this idea that there's a spark of good in everyone, that's the essential first step. It's the bedrock.
All right, so if we start from that belief that we're all inherently good, then what do we do with all the hard stuff that happens to us? The challenges, the setbacks? Well, let's jump into our next section and see how we can reframe those challenges not as problems, but as messages.
Now this, right here, this is a huge mindset shift. Our first instinct when a problem comes up is to fight it, to fix it, to get rid of it as fast as possible, right? But what if we paused for a second and asked the different question? What if this challenge, this thing that feels so awful, is actually a message designed to help us grow?
Okay, so how do you actually do this? The source lays out a really clear 4-step process. First step, observe. Instead of reacting right away, just sit with it. Be quiet and notice what's really happening. Second step, reframe. This is where you consciously change the label in your head from, this is a terrible problem, to, this is a message for me. Third, you interpret. You ask, okay, what's the lesson here? What is this trying to make me aware of? And finally, step 4 is to grow. You take that new insight and use it to move forward with more freedom and a deeper sense of connection.
I know this can all sound a bit abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a really concrete example from the source. Let's say someone is constantly dealing with digestive problems. If we look at this metaphysically, which just means looking for a deeper meaning beyond the physical, this might not just be a random body issue. It could be a message.
From this point of view, that physical symptom could be pointing to something deeper. Maybe it's about a hard time letting go of the past, or maybe it's holding on to these old fossilized beliefs that just don't work anymore. It could even be a signal of some indigestible event from childhood that never really got healed. Now, to be super clear, the source stresses this isn't about playing doctor. The whole point is to use these as clues to find the emotional key that can unlock healing and release.
And that idea of release leads us perfectly to our third pillar. So we've talked about believing in our own goodness and learning to read life's messages. But what about the actual, work, the hard part of changing those deep patterns? This is where the rubber meets the road.
We've all heard this a million times, right? In every self-help book, every spiritual talk. Just let it go. It sounds so easy, so clean, like you can just drop it and walk away.
And the source is crystal clear on this. Absolutely not. Not even close. Just deciding you're going to let go of a belief you've held your entire life, that's kind of like trying to throw away a shirt while you're still wearing it. It just doesn't work that way.
So what is it then? The source calls it unlearning, and it's a super active process. It means you actually have to walk right back into those same old situations that always trigger you, but this time, you consciously, deliberately choose to respond in a new way. You do it over and over again, until that old belief just kind of dissolves. It's a practice, not a one-time decision.
The author gets really vulnerable and shares a personal story about this. As a kid, they learned to take on everyone else's responsibilities just to feel safe. But as an adult, that pattern meant they kept attracting people who were more than happy to let them carry all the weight. The unlearning for them was the terrifying act of consciously not fixing things for other people, again and again.
And that is really the bottom line. You can say affirmations until you're blue in the face, but real transformation only happens in those tough moments when you choose a new action over an old, comfortable habit. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. It's about walking the walk until that old belief just doesn't have any power over you anymore.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. We've looked at 3 huge ideas: seeing our own goodness, reading life's hidden messages, and the really active work of unlearning. Now let's wrap this up by seeing how this whole personal journey fits into a bigger picture.
So you see how it all connects, right? It's this beautiful framework. You start with the belief in your inherent goodness. That belief then gives you the courage to see life's challenges as messages, not attacks. And that new understanding gives you the strength you need to do the hard work of unlearning all the old stuff that's been holding you back.
But here's a really important reality check from the source. This path is totally unique for every single one of us. There is no one-size-fits-all formula, no simple recipe you can follow. And because of that, let's be honest, trying to figure it all out by yourself can feel incredibly overwhelming, even isolating.
And that's exactly where having a community is such a game changer. It gives you a space where you know you're not alone in this messy, beautiful work. You can learn from other people, you can get support when that whole unlearning thing feels impossible, and you can be encouraged to find out what your path looks like without any pressure to conform.
So, to wrap it all up, I'm going to turn this question back to you. After thinking about all this, what's just one old, fossilized idea about yourself or about the world that you think you might just be ready to start the active process of letting go of? That's something to think about.